Hello, dreamers, and welcome to Dreaming Isle. I'm here to guide you into a calm and magical place tonight. Before we begin, take a moment to like this video and subscribe if you haven't already. It helps bring more dreamers to our little corner of the stars. And if you'd like, share in the comments, what's the world outside your window like right now? Now, find your cozy spot. Let go of the day, and let the story begin. They rang the plague bell at dawn. The sound rolled through Veruin's narrow alleys like a dying man's rattle, cold and hollow. Even in the fog-choked streets, I heard it clearly. 1 ring for the dead, 2 for the dying, 3 for the lost. Today it rang 3 times. I pulled the beaked mask over my face, the scent of vinegar and herbs biting my nose. It did nothing to keep out the rot. The city stank of death, old blood, spoiled meat, unwashed fear. My gloved fingers shook as I tightened the straps. Not from illness, from dread. I am Dr. Sebastian Vale, last of the guild here. The others died, or ran. I stayed. Someone had to, or so I told myself. In truth, I could not leave. I needed answers. They say the plague is punishment from the gods, that sinners choke on their guilt, their lungs filling with black blood. But I have seen holy men die screaming, their prayers unanswered. I have cut open corpses and found no mercy beneath the skin. Only something, growing, blooming like mold. This morning, the city guard fetched me from my cot before sunrise. They would not speak, only pointed. A house marked with a red X and flaking paint. I pushed inside. They lay in piles. Mother, father, children, all black-lipped and swollen. Except one, the youngest, a boy of perhaps 6. He sat among the corpses, humming tunelessly. When I touched his shoulder, he turned. His eyes were milky white. He smiled with broken teeth, and in a voice that wasn't his, he whispered, "Dr. Vale, we've been waiting for you." I stumbled back. He giggled wetly. Then he died. Just stopped breathing. The plague took him in a single breath. I checked for a pulse I knew wasn't there. Outside, the bell rang 3 times. I wiped my blade clean on my sleeve and left the house. The city swallowed me in fog. My hands trembled. I felt the words he'd spoken burrow into my thoughts like worms. Waiting. Always waiting. I made my way through Veruin's twisting lanes, the fog swallowing buildings whole. My masked lenses blurred with moisture. Shapes drifted past, beggars, robed priests murmuring prayers, watchmen with torches guttering in damp wind. All avoided my gaze. Plague doctors are the city's last hope and its final horror. I reached the square outside St. Emmerich's Cathedral. Black banners hung limply from the bell tower, painted with the crimson sigil of the Inquisition, an open eye wreathed in flame. They claimed to be purging sin, but I had seen their pyres. The screams did not sound redeemed. He was waiting for me at the steps. Inquisitor Inrel, tall, skeletal in his black robes, face hidden by a mask of beaten iron. Only his eyes showed, cold, pale, calculating. "Dr. Vale," he rasped. "Another house marked this morning?" I nodded. "A family, all dead, except the boy." His gaze sharpened. "Survivor?" "No." He spoke, then died. Enrel shifted. Spoke. I hesitated. The words crawled in my skull. I heard them even now. "We've been waiting for you." "Yes," I admitted. He regarded me in silence. Behind him, acolytes in black hoods scrawled sigils in chalk across the steps, muttering protective prayers. The air stank of incense and fear. "Burn the house," he ordered. "We will bless the ground. No survivors. No contagion." My jaw tightened behind my mask. "It wasn't contagion. Everything is contagion," he said softly. "Especially words." He turned away. "You will report to me tonight. At the crypt." Then he was gone, trailing black robes across wet cobbles. I watched him vanish into the fog, the bell tolling once behind him. For the dead. For me. I clenched my fists. The boy's words burrowed deeper. The city was dying, and something beneath it waited. The crypt beneath St. Emmerich's was older than the city itself. Carved into the bedrock by nameless builders, it stank of mold, wet stone, and ancient fear. I descended by guttering lantern light, each step slick with condensation. My boots squelched in black water pooled at the bottom. Candles flickered in iron sconces, their wax running like pale blood. Hooded acolytes watched me without speaking. The Inquisition's private clergy, not priests of any god I knew. Enrel stood at an altar of cracked marble. On it lay a corpse, pale and bloated, lips blackened, eyes stitched shut with iron wire. Symbols had been carved into its chest, protective wards or sacrilege, depending on who you asked. Doctor Vale, Enrel said without looking at me, "You will examine it." I hesitated. My fingers trembled as I drew my scalpel. The blade flashed in the candlelight. I cut the stitches with shaking precision. The mouth fell open. Something inside wriggled. A black tongue, split like a serpent's, slithered out. It was wet, alive. It hissed words in a voice not its own. "We see you, Doctor. We see beneath." I recoiled. The acolytes tightened their circle. Enrel did not move. I turned the scalpel on the thing. Cut deep. Black ichor spilled, sizzling on the altar like acid. The tongue twitched, then fell still. Andrel's voice was calm. "You see? Even the dead speak now. Even they know something stirs." My breath rasped behind my mask. "What is it?" He met my gaze, eyes cold as grave soil. "Sin," he whispered. "Given form, given hunger." The corpse smiled as it bled. After the examination, they let me go. Not free, just away. The Inquisition doesn't grant freedom. It grants leash. I walked through the sleeping city, lantern swaying. The fog had lifted enough to show Veruin's decay clearly. Walls split with damp, gutters choked with filth. Windows shuttered tight, candlelight flickering behind cracked glass. Somewhere, someone sobbed. Somewhere else, laughter cracked like a whip. I made for my rented rooms above an apothecary. The landlady no longer greeted me. She left my key under the door. I couldn't blame her. The black-beaked mask frightened even those it saved. Inside, I shed my coat and mask. My gloves left brown smears on the table. Dried blood. I didn't bother cleaning them. I opened my journal. The pages were warped from damp, ink smeared from frantic notes. Sketches of the black tongue, the boy's milky eyes, the symbols carved in the crypt walls. None of it made sense. But together, it screamed a single word: hunger. I thought of Andrel's eyes, the way they watched, unblinking. I turned to a fresh page and forced my shaking hand to move. I wrote every word the corpse had spoken, every detail I remembered. The page filled with broken lines, curling letters. When I finished, I realized I was no longer alone. A voice behind me. Wet. Amused. Good. Write it all down. I turned slowly. Nothing there. The lantern guttered once, then steadied. My breath steamed in the cold room. I closed the journal. My heart thundered. Outside, the bell rang twice. For the dying. Sleep refused me. I lay in sweat-damp sheets, staring at the ceiling's cracked plaster, listening to the city wheeze and cough. Every cough a death knell, every silence worse. When the bell rang for dawn, I gave up. Dressed, mask on, satchel packed. I checked the scalpel twice. I didn't go to the Inquisition. Not yet. I went to the catacombs. The entrance lay behind the old hospital, its archway bricked up years ago. A sign of mercy. A lie. I pried the loose stones free by lantern light, the mortar crumbling like old bone. The air that exhaled was foul, wet with rot. I descended, boots squelching in muck. The walls closed around me, carved skulls watching with empty eyes. Stalactites of old wax hung from rusted candelabras. Rats scattered before my light, squealing. I stopped at an intersection. The walls were covered in writing. Hundreds of hands. Hundreds of years. Please. Curses. Names. Blood and soot and filth. But one line was fresh. "We've been waiting for you." My breath caught. I ran a finger over the letters. Wet. Black. Fresh. A whisper behind me. Doctor Vale. I spun, scalpel raised. The tunnel was empty, but the walls laughed. The sound was wet. Hungry. I backed away, lantern trembling. The writing writhed, letters crawling like maggots. The catacombs shifted, passages twisting. I ran blind, heart hammering. The dead whispered. They knew me. They called my name. When I found the ladder up, I nearly broke it climbing out. I emerged in an alley, shaking, gasping for clean air that wasn't there. The bell tolled once. For the dead. For me. I didn't go home. I went to the cathedral. St. Emmerich's loomed in the fog, black stone slick with rain. The steps were empty. The doors creaked open when I pushed them, iron hinges screaming. Inside, candles guttered in the nave, casting long shadows of saints whose faces were eroded by damp. I stumbled down the aisle, boots leaving muddy prints. My mask felt too tight, my breathing ragged. At the altar, I fell to my knees. I don't pray, haven't in years, but I tried. My voice cracked. Help me. Silence. I took off the mask. The air was cold. My breath fogged. I stared up at the crucifix. The saint nailed their webbed black ichor, eyes hollow. I sobbed once. Then laughter joined me. Wet. Mocking. You're already ours. I spun, slipping in the mud. No one there. My satchel fell open. The journal tumbled out. Its pages turned on their own, windless. Words scrawled themselves in black ink that smoked. Write it all. Tell them. We're waiting. My hand shook. I slammed it shut. The candles guttered and died. In the dark, the cathedral sighed. Wood creaked. Stone wept. I put the mask back on. Stood. Picked up my bag. The bell tolled 3 times outside. For the lost. I left. Morning found me at the crypt again. I hadn't slept. My eyes burned behind the mask's lenses. My gloves were damp with sweat and old blood. Fog clung to Veruin like a funeral shroud. 2 black-cloaked acolytes stood at the crypt entrance. They didn't speak as I approached, only pulled open the heavy doors with a groan of iron hinges. I descended without waiting for permission. The air inside was worse than before. Rank with rot, heavy with candle smoke. The walls were slick, inscriptions carved so deep they wept black water. At the bottom, Inquisitor Enrel waited. He stood over a corpse on the slab, arms crossed. Doctor Vale. His voice was sand on glass. We have another. I approached. The body was fresh. A woman in fine clothes, her mouth sewn shut with black wire, eyes milky. Her dress was slashed, symbols burned into her skin. Ritual marks. I swallowed bile. What happened? Enrel didn't blink. Confession. She knew words she should not know. She spoke them even as she burned. We had to be sure. Sure of what? I asked. He gestured at the corpse. Cut. My hands trembled as I drew the scalpel. I cut the stitches. Her mouth fell open. No breath. No sound. Relief started to creep in. Then I saw them. Small black shapes scuttling from her tongue, falling to the slab. Worms. They hissed. Dr. Vale. They chorused in tiny, perfect voices. We're waiting. I jerked back, scalpel clattering. Enrel didn't flinch. He only watched me, judging. Burn it, he ordered the acolytes. Now, they dragged the slab away. Firelight flickered in the corridor. The worms screamed as they died. Enrel turned to me. You see the truth. Now you will find the source. I opened my mouth, but no words came. He smiled without warmth. You have no choice. I left the crypt shaking, the world outside no kinder. The plague bell rang twice in the fog, rolling over rooftops slick with rain. I walked without aim, boots sucking at the muddy street. The people of Veruin scattered at the sight of my mask. I found myself in the old cemetery. Iron gates swung in the wind, squealing. Rows of headstones leaned drunkenly in the soft ground. Mausoleums yawned open, doors broken, bones scattered by thieves or worse. I stopped at a fresh grave. The dirt was black, wet. No flowers. No prayers. Only a crude marker. I read the name carved into rotting wood. I didn't know them. That didn't matter. I fell to my knees. My gloves sank into the muck. My breath rattled in the mask. "Tell me," I whispered. "What is happening?" Silence. I laughed, cracked and hollow. My fingers dug into the grave. I wanted to pull the truth out with my bare hands. The wind died. A voice rose from the earth. Wet, soft, familiar. "We're waiting." I froze. My heart thundered. The ground writhed under my fingers. I felt movement below. Slow, patient. I tore my hands free, falling back in the mud. My lantern swung wildly, light scattering over broken stones. Shapes danced in the dark. Human, not human. The voice spoke again, everywhere at once. "You will open the door." I ran, boots slipping in muck, heart pounding. The bell rang behind me, tolling for the dying. For me. I didn't go home. I couldn't. Instead, I climbed the narrow stairs of the old library, a forgotten place near the city wall. The door was warped, hinges rusted. I forced it open and slipped inside. Dust choked the air. Shelves sagged under the weight of old books, their leather bindings split and curling. Candles burned low in sconces, puddles of wax thick as grave fat. In the far corner sat Scholar Barand, ancient, thin as a corpse, robes stained with ink and wine. He looked up when I approached, eyes bleary behind cracked lenses. "Vale," he rasped. "I thought you'd finally died." "Not yet," I said. My voice cracked. He gestured to a chair. I didn't sit. My hands trembled. "Barand, you know old tongues. Forbidden rites. Tell me, what does it mean when the dead speak? When they know my name?" He stared at me in silence. Then he laughed. It was a broken sound, like dry twigs snapping. "Too late," he whispered. "You've already heard them. That's how it begins." My blood ran cold. "What begins?" He leaned closer, breath foul with rotgut. "They're not ghosts, Vale. Not souls. They're hunger. The memory of sin-given voice. They don't haunt you. They claim you." I felt the blood drain from my face. Duran's voice cracked. "Run. Leave the city. Now, before it finishes hollowing you out." I stood slowly. My mask creaked. "I can't," I said. He watched me go, shaking his head. Outside, the bell rang once. For the dead. Fog swallowed the street as I left the library. My lantern cast thin light, barely pushing back the dark. My satchel knocked against my hip with every step, the journal inside feeling heavier than iron. I didn't see the watchman until he was on me. He stepped from an alley, torch raised, eyes hollow with exhaustion. His breastplate was dented, uniform stained with blood. "Halt," he rasped. I did. Slowly, hands raised. He lowered the torch enough to see my mask. He flinched. "Plague doctor. Watchman." He looked around, nervous. The fog felt alive. "They say you talk to corpses." "That true." My mouth was dry. "They talk to me." He swallowed. "My boy's dying. Black blood in his mouth. Priest says it's sin. Wife's praying. But I heard, you can help." I hesitated. The bell tolled in the distance. "Please," he whispered. His voice cracked. I nodded once. "Show me." We walked in silence. The city watched us. Windows closed. Dogs howled and fell silent. His home was a shack near the wall. Inside, a boy lay on filthy straw, gasping, lips black. His eyes rolled, unfocused. When I touched his wrist, he turned and smiled. "Dr. Vale," he croaked. "We're waiting." I recoiled. The watchman grabbed me. Desperate. "Help him." I met his eyes. My voice was hollow. "I can't." He screamed. He struck me. I let him. When he fell sobbing over his son, I turned and left. Outside, the fog swallowed me whole. I didn't go home. I walked until the fog swallowed the city behind me. I found myself at the edge of the marsh, black water reflecting no light. I dropped to my knees in the mud, mask creaking, gloves slick with filth. My breath came in ragged gasps. I tore the mask off and threw it aside. "Enough," I hissed. Silence. "Enough." The wind died. The reeds stilled. Voices rose. Hundreds. Thousands. Wet. Whispering. We're waiting. My skin crawled. My teeth chattered. What do you want? Laughter. Low. Endless. You. I dug my fingers into the mud until they bled. My heart hammered like a war drum. I felt something watching. Surrounding. Welcoming. Open the door. Tears burned. My voice cracked. What do I get? Silence. Then, knowledge. Power. Truth. I swallowed. My hands shook. Fine, I whispered. I accept. The marsh roared. The water boiled. Black shapes rose, arms outstretched. The pact sealed itself in blood and breath and madness. When I stood, my gloves were soaked in black ichor. My eyes burned with knowing. My mask lay in the mud. I left it there. I walked back through Veruin's gates at dawn. The guards shrank from me without speaking. My hair was matted, coat stiff with dried marsh filth. My hands were black to the wrists, stained with something that wasn't mud. I didn't care. The city watched me. I felt its gaze in every shuttered window, every crack in the walls. The bell rang twice overhead. For the dying. For me. My steps took me through streets I knew too well. The apothecary where I once mixed palliative tonics. Boarded up. The inn that served the watch. Burned to blackened beams. Even the cathedral seemed smaller, crouching under heavy fog. Its tower bell rang hollow. Voices whispered as I passed. Not people. The city itself. The stones. The fog. The blood in the gutters. We see you, Doctor Vale. We're waiting. I ignored them. My heart beat slow and heavy, each thump an effort. My breath steamed, even though the morning was warm. In an alley, I saw a plague cart. The driver was gone. Bodies spilled onto the stones like rubbish. Their black-lipped mouths gaped. Their eyes watched me. One corpse, a woman in a tattered red dress, moved. Just the mouth. Twitching. Smiling. You opened the door. I shuddered. Forced myself to move on. Children watched me from doorways, eyes wide with fear. I tried to speak, to reassure them, but my voice cracked, raw from screaming things into the marsh wind. I reached my rooms, forced the door, collapsed onto the floor. My journal spilled from my satchel. Pages fluttered. Words crawled across them like insects. I shut my eyes. The city whispered. More. Sleep took me like drowning. I fell through black water, mouth full of ashes. I dreamed of the boy in the red-marked house, white eyes glowing. He sat among his dead family, humming. When he turned to me, his mouth split too wide, teeth serrated. We're waiting, Doctor Vale. I woke screaming. My sheets tangled. My body slick with sweat. The fever was on me. I staggered to the basin. Water sloshed on a cracked tile. My face was pale as milk, eyes bloodshot. My lips were dark. I rubbed them hard until they bled. I felt it in me. The same plague I'd dissected in others. Black blood, thick as tar, crawling through veins. But mine moved with purpose. Intelligence. It whispered, "You are chosen." I fell to my knees. Vomited bile and blood. My journal lay open nearby, pages writhing with words I hadn't written. Old tongues. Dead languages. Spells. I crawled to it. My fingers trembled. I turned pages, faster, desperate. Every line promised salvation, power, understanding. But the price. My eyes blurred. Opened the door. My lips moved of their own accord. I spoke the words. The room dimmed. Shadows pooled. Shapes shifted in corners. They watched. They approved. When it ended, I lay in silence. My heart beat slow. My breath rattling. The fever broke. I felt colder than death. Outside, the bell tolled once. I rose at dusk. My limbs felt like lead, but the fever was gone. In its place, clarity. Unwelcome. Unholy. I cleaned myself mechanically. Washed black crust from my fingers. Dressed in clean linens that felt foreign on my skin. When I tried to tie my mask on, I stopped. My reflection in the cracked glass showed hollow eyes, skin drawn tight over bone. I left it behind. The cathedral bells rang ceaselessly now, tolling for the dead, the dying, the damned. I followed them like a summons. St. Emmerich's was full, not with worshippers, with the sick. They lay on straw, coughing black blood onto cold stone. Priests moved among them, sprinkling holy water, muttering prayers that fell limp from their tongues. At the altar, Inquisitor Enrel preached. His iron mask caught candlelight like a skull. His voice was calm, cold. Sin brought this plague. Only confession will cleanse us. He turned as I entered. His gaze pierced me. Doctor Vale. The congregation parted. The dying watched me with glazed eyes. Enrel beckoned. I climbed the steps, stood beside him. The smell of sickness was thick. He leaned close. They know you, he rasped. I didn't speak. They want you. He raised his voice to the congregation. Confess your sins, or share the doctor's fate. They screamed, wept, begged. I listened. The words they poured out crawled over my skin. The plague in me pulsed. It fed on their guilt. I smiled. After the sermon, Enrel led me into the crypt. His acolytes followed, black hoods hiding their fear. The door shut behind us with a sound like final judgment. Candles sputtered in damp air. Water dripped steadily. The old walls groaned under weight they shouldn't bear. Enrel stopped before the altar. The bloodstains were fresh. Why do they speak to you? He demanded. I was too tired to lie. Because I listened. He struck me. Metal knuckles cracked against my jaw. My vision blurred. I didn't fall. He hissed. You opened the door. I licked blood from my lip. My voice was a whisper. I had to know. Enrel turned away. His shoulders shook. Rage? Fear? Prayer? He faced me again, voice shaking. What do they want? I met his gaze, my own steady. Everything. Silence filled the crypt. The acolytes shuffled. One began to cry. Andrel's eyes were wet behind the iron mask. Can you stop it? I swallowed. My fingers curled into fists. The words I learned writhed in my skull. Eager. Hungry. Yes, I lied. He exhaled, shaking. He placed a coin in my palm. Old. Heavy. Stamped with a saint's face worn blank. Then do it. I closed my fingers around it. It burned cold. Payment. The voices whispered. I nodded once. I left the crypt before dawn. The fog was thick enough to chew. The streets empty, save for the groans of the dying behind shuttered windows. I walked to the marsh. Always the marsh. The mud sucked at my boots. The reeds rattled though there was no wind. I stood at the water's edge. My reflection was wrong. Hollow eyes. Black veins spiderwebbed across pale skin. My lips moved without sound. I opened the satchel. Took out the journal. The pages shivered, words crawling. I turned to the last page. Blank. Waiting. I drew the coin Enrel had given me. Stared at it. The saint's face was gone, melted by centuries. Payment. I dropped it into the water. The surface rippled. Dark shapes gathered beneath. Watching, I began to speak. Words in no mortal tongue. My throat burned. My vision swam. Blood trickled from my nose. The water boiled. Steam hissed, filling my lungs with rot. The shapes rose. Arms. Faces. Mouths full of teeth. We're waiting. I screamed the final word. The world snapped like a rotten rope. The marsh fell silent. When I opened my eyes, the water was still. The fog receded. The voices were quiet. But they weren't gone. They were inside me. I returned to the city before sunrise. The fog clung to me like wet linen. My steps were slow, deliberate. My breath steamed from cracked lips. No voices whispered from the shadows. No shapes danced in the corners of my vision. For the first time in days, the city was silent. But the silence wasn't mercy. It was waiting. Inside me, the voices curled like sleeping serpents. Restless, dreaming. Their weight pressed on my ribs, made every breath shallow. I passed the plague carts. Corpses lay in heaps, mouths open, tongues black. I staring. They didn't speak. Not now. But I felt them watching. At my door, I paused. My key shook in my hand. When I turned it, the lock shrieked like an animal in pain. My room was untouched. The journal lay on the table, open to blank pages. Waiting. Always waiting. I sat heavily in the chair. My body ached. My fingers were raw, stained black. I picked up the quill with shaking hands. I began to write. Not because I wanted to. Because I had to. The words spilled out in a torrent. Names. Symbols. Secrets not meant for human minds. Blood from my nose splattered the page, mingling with ink. I wrote until my vision blurred. Until I collapsed forward, cheek pressed to wet parchment. I felt them move inside me then. Stirring. Stretching. Whispering. Soon. I slept. I woke to knocking. Slow. Reluctant. As if the one knocking regretted it already. I wiped dried blood from my lips. The journal stuck to my cheek when I lifted my head. The knocking came again. I pulled the door open a crack. Fog drifted in. On the steps stood alchemist Mary. Her eyes were red-rimmed from sleeplessness. Dark hair plastered to her face with rain. "Vale," she said. "I need you." I blinked. My voice cracked. "No one needs me." Her eyes flashed with anger. "One of my apprentices. He's infected. I thought I could save him. I can't." I tried to shut the door. Her hand shot out, stopping it. "Please." That word. It crawled under my skin like a worm. I opened the door wider. She recoiled at the sight of me. My eyes sunk in. My lips cracked and blackened. But she didn't run. "Show me," I rasped. We walked through the waking city. The bell tolled once behind us. The dying. Her shop was lit by guttering candles. Shelves stacked with jars of powder and tincture. The apprentice lay on a cot in back. Barely a boy. Black veins spread from his mouth. He moaned. My name. Vale. Not his voice. Marion wept. "Do something." I set my satchel down. My fingers caressed the journal. I felt the words inside me. "The price." "Speak," they urged. I raised my hand. Marion watched with wide eyes as I stepped closer. The boy's breathing rattled. His mouth opened. Black blood dribbled onto stained sheets. I touched his forehead. Burning. Slick with sweat. His eyes snapped open. Milky. Wrong. "We're waiting, Doctor Vale." My stomach twisted. I heard the voices inside me laughing. Eager. I swallowed hard. My fingers twitched, forming old sigils in the air. The words rose in my throat, black and foul. Marion grabbed my arm. "What are you doing?" I didn't answer. Couldn't. I spoke. The boy screamed. His back arched, bones cracking. Black blood poured from every orifice. The veins on his neck split open like overripe fruit. Steam hissed from his mouth. Marion shrieked. Tried to pull me back, but I couldn't stop. The words burned. Each one tore a piece from me. The power answered. The black blood recoiled, turned to ash. The boy fell limp, eyes rolling back. Silence. Marion collapsed to her knees, sobbing. I lowered my hand. My vision swam. I fell against the wall, gasping. My heart labored. My blood felt like ice. I wiped my mouth. Black ichor on my sleeve. The boy was dead, but the plague was gone. Marion's voice cracked. "You killed him." I didn't deny it. I picked up my journal. My fingers burned. The voices inside me were quiet, satisfied. I left her there, sobbing over the corpse. I wandered the streets until dusk, numb. The fog thickened until the lamps were pale ghosts. My boots squelched in black mud. The bell tolled twice. For the dying. I felt nothing. When I reached the cathedral square, the doors were open. Light spilled onto cracked stones. Inside, I heard chanting. Desperate. Frantic. I stepped in. The congregation was on its knees. Priests splashed holy water that steamed on the flagstones. Candles guttered, dripping black wax. Enrel stood at the altar. His iron mask caught the light like a skull. He raised a hand and silence fell. "Dr. Vale," he said. All eyes turned to me. Fear. Hatred. Hope. I stood unmoving. Enrel gestured. "Come." My steps echoed in the nave. The congregation recoiled. murmured prayers. At the altar, Enrel lowered his voice. They're speaking to everyone now, not just you. I didn't answer. His voice trembled. They know your name. I swallowed bile. What do they want? Andrel's fingers tightened on the altar. You. Silence. He dropped a small bundle on the marble, cloth stained with blood. A sigil burned into the fabric. For you. A summons. I picked it up with shaking hands. The words crawled across the cloth, burning into my mind. Come. I left the cathedral without speaking. The fog swallowed me whole. My feet carried me south, past silent homes, past plague carts piled high. No one stopped me. No one dared. At the edge of the city lay the old well, boarded over decades ago, said to be cursed, haunted. The boards were broken now, scattered like ribs around a wound. I stood at the lip, peered down. Darkness so thick it felt solid. The summons burned in my pocket. The words twisted inside me. Come. I climbed over the edge. My fingers found old iron rungs, slick with slime. I descended. The light from above faded until only my breath remained. Harsh, ragged, shapes moved in the dark. I felt them brush my face, heard them whisper, "We're waiting." My fingers bled on the rungs. My boots slipped in wet moss. When I reached the bottom, water pooled around my ankles. Black, stagnant. A tunnel opened before me. Carved stone, walls slick with moisture. Ancient sigils glowed faintly. The words burned in my mouth. Eager, hungry. I took a step forward, then another. The tunnel swallowed me whole. The tunnel pressed in on me with each step. The walls were slick stone, sweating moisture that ran in rivulets over ancient sigils. They pulsed faintly, casting sickly green light that revealed just enough to terrify. My boots splashed in black water. The air was so thick it clung to my lungs. My breath rasped. I tried to stay silent, but the tunnel did not respect silence. It whispered, dozens of voices, hundreds, men, women, children. Their words slithered through my ears and coiled around my heart. Doctor Vale, you opened the door. We're waiting. I pressed a hand to my mouth to stifle a sob. The voices laughed at me. I don't know how long I walked. Time did not exist here. Only the scrape of my boots, the sound of my breathing, and the words in the dark. Once, I stopped, listened. The whispers fell silent. I felt them gather, as if holding their breath. I turned slowly. Shapes stood in the tunnel behind me. Human silhouettes, limbs too long, faces blank, mouths open in silent screams. I blinked. They were gone. I ran. Water splashed up my legs, soaking my coat. My breath tore my throat raw. The whispers returned, louder now. Insistent. Speak. Let us in. We're hungry. I stumbled, fell to my knees. My hands sank into black water. My fingers touched something solid beneath. Bone. A skull. It smiled at me through dark sockets. I screamed. The tunnel devoured the sound. I forced myself up. My legs trembled with exhaustion. My breath burned, but I kept moving. I had no choice. The tunnel widened slowly, the whispers growing excited. They pressed against my ears, writhing in my mind. Closer. We see you. We're waiting. I emerged into a vast chamber carved from black stone. The walls were covered in teeth. Human. Animal. Some too large to be either. They jutted from the walls like jagged white stalactites, glistening with moisture. The ceiling was lost in darkness. The floor was slick with blood, pooled in shallow channels that formed strange symbols. At the center stood an altar of bone. Upon it lay a corpse, bloated, split open from throat to groin. Its ribs spread like wings, its mouth wide in a grin of too many teeth. My stomach heaved. I covered my mouth with a shaking hand. The corpse shuddered. Its mouth moved. Doctor Vale. I took a step back. You opened the door. My fingers found my satchel. The journal inside pulsed with heat. The words burned under my skin, demanding release. Speak. My mouth moved without my will. The words poured out. Old. Hungry. Forbidden. The chamber shivered. The teeth chattered in unison. Blood ran in thick streams, feeding the symbols carved into the floor. The corpse on the altar laughed. I screamed back. My voice cracked and failed. The words stopped. Silence fell like a shroud. The corpse lifted its head slowly. Vertebrae cracked wetly. Its two wide grins split further, spilling black ichor. You want to stop it? I shook my head, tears burning my eyes. No, I whispered, but the voices inside me overpowered my denial. Yes. The corpse laughed. The sound was wet, sucking, hungry. There's a price. My breath rattled. My heart pounded in my ears. What price? It cocked its head mockingly. Everything. I fell to my knees in blood. My hands sank into the sticky warmth. My journal fell open before me. The pages writhed with black text, moving like maggots. Say it, the corpse urged. I screamed. The words tore free. My mouth filled with blood. My teeth cracked, black veins spreading from my lips. The chamber roared. The teeth in the walls chattered like applause. Blood poured from the altar, filling the symbols on the floor. The corpse lay back, its grin satisfied. Paid. My vision blurred. My body convulsed. I felt them inside me. Crawling. Laughing. We're waiting. I fell forward into blood. I don't know how long I lay there. The blood cooled around me, thickening into clots. My body felt wrong. Heavy. Full. When I opened my eyes, the chamber was empty. The altar bare. The walls clean stone. No teeth. No blood. The journal lay before me. Closed. Its cover cracked. I picked it up with shaking hands. It felt warm. Alive. I stood slowly. My legs trembled. My coat clung to my skin, stiff with dried blood. My fingers were black to the bone. Veins pulsed with dark light under the skin. My mouth ached. I touched my lips. Teeth sharp as needles cut my glove. I shuddered. The voices inside me were quiet. Sated. For now. Doctor Vale, they whispered. Good. I staggered from the chamber. Back through the tunnel. The water was gone. The walls dry. The sigils dark. But the silence was not comfort. It was promise. When I reached the old well, dawn waited above. Pale. Sickly. The city skyline was broken and dark. Smoke drifted from collapsed rooftops. The bell tolled weakly. For the dead. I climbed out. My breath steaming in the cold. My eyes burned in my skull. I walked back into Veruin. The city recoiled from me as I passed. Windows slammed. Doors locked. Even the dogs slunk away whining. I didn't blame them. I caught my reflection in a shattered shop window. Hollow eyes. Black veins snaking from my mouth. Teeth too sharp. I pulled my hood low. Clutched the journal to my chest. The bell rang once. I passed the plague carts, piled high. The corpses didn't speak now. They didn't have to. The voices were in me. Always. Whispering. Advising. Laughing. More. The cathedral loomed ahead. Its bell tower cracked, cross hanging at a drunken angle. Smoke rose from its broken doors. I stepped inside. Corpses littered the nave. Priests. Acolytes. Inquisitors. Black blood pooled between cracked tiles. Candles guttered in pools of melted wax, their flames green and sickly. At the altar, Enrel knelt. Mask gone. Face pale, veins black, eyes wide with terror. He turned as I approached. Vale, he gasped. What did you do? I didn't answer. He coughed blood. They're everywhere. In everything. I stopped before him. The journal pulsed in my hand. Say it, the voices urged. Enrel sobbed. I opened the book. The journal fell open in my hands. Pages rippled though there was no wind. Ink bled across parchment in writhing lines, forming symbols that hurt to look at. Enrel watched, weeping. His mouth worked soundlessly, blood trickling from cracked lips. Vale, he rasped. Stop. But I couldn't. My fingers moved of their own accord, tracing symbols in the air. The words crawled from my throat, cold and wet, older than language. We're waiting. The cathedral shook. Candles flared, their flames blackening. Stained glass cracked, spilling sickly light across the dead. Enrel fell back, scrabbling at the altar. No, no. I took a step forward. My voice rose. The words weren't mine anymore. They belonged to something older, hungrier. The corpses littering the nave twitched. Fingers curled. Eyes opened, milky and wrong. They sat up slowly, mouths opening in unison. "We see you," Enrel screamed. He pressed his back to the altar, covering his ears. I watched them rise, watched them smile. The words burned my throat raw. "We're waiting." I felt my teeth lengthen. My veins pulsed with black light. My heart slowed. My blood thickened. The journal snapped shut with a sound like breaking bone. Silence crashed down. The corpses slumped. Dead again. Enrel sobbed. I lowered my hand slowly. My breath came in ragged gasps. My vision swam with dark shapes that refused to fade. The voices inside me laughed. "Good." Enrel didn't move as I approached. His eyes were wide, empty. His lips worked silently, trying to form prayers that wouldn't come. I knelt beside him. My gloves left black stains on his robe. "Confess," I whispered. My voice cracked. He flinched. Tears streamed down his hollow cheeks. "Vale," he sobbed. "We tried. We burned them. We drowned them. We prayed until our throats bled. Nothing stopped it." His fingers dug into my arm. The grip was weak, desperate. "They said it was sin. Ours. Yours. The city's. But it's older than that. It wants everything." My jaw tightened. My teeth ached. He coughed. Black blood splattered the marble. "Confess," I said again. He choked on a sob. I was afraid. The words were soft, final. He slumped, breath rasping once, twice. Then silence. I watched the light fade from his eyes. My own vision blurred with tears that burned like acid. I placed a hand on his chest. Felt nothing. "We're waiting," the voices whispered inside me. I stood slowly. The nave was silent except for the guttering candles. My journal pulsed in my hand, warm and eager. I turned away from the altar. My steps echoed in the empty cathedral. Outside, the bell tolled once. Veruin burned. I stepped into chaos. Houses smoldered, flames licking cracked roofs. Smoke coiled through the streets, thick as fog. Shapes moved in the gloom, citizens running, coughing, dying. The bell tower cracked with a sound like thunder. The bell fell, shattering on cobbles slick with blood. I walked slowly, deliberately. My coat was stiff with dried ichor. My breath steamed in the cold. People screamed at the sight of me. Mothers clutched children and fled. Men drew rusted blades, then thought better of it and ran. I didn't chase them. My eyes scanned the devastation. Fires cast long shadows. Plague carts burned, the corpses inside writhing with black worms. The air stank of rot and old sin. The voices in me purred. Good. More. I reached the square. Inquisitors had made a stand. Black-robed figures chanting prayers, drawing sigils in ash. I watched from the shadows. The plague surged toward them. Sick men and women, black veins bulging, mouths full of blood. Their eyes white, glowing. They screamed my name. Vale. The Inquisitors broke. Ran. Fell. Were devoured. I closed my eyes. Spoke the words. The voices inside me laughed. The sick froze. Their mouths split open too wide. Black blood sprayed the stones. Silence fell. I opened my eyes. The square was empty but for corpses. We're waiting. I left the burning square behind. The city held around me. I walked through alleys choked with corpses. The dead watched me with blank eyes, their mouths working silently. I didn't speak to them. I reached the southern gate. It stood open. The guards were gone or dead. Beyond lay the empty road, choked with fog. I stood at the threshold. My breath steamed. The journal pulsed in my grip. The voices whispered urgently. Stay. More. Finish it. I turned slowly, looking back. Veruin burned. Flames ate old timber, cast sickly light on broken stones. Smoke rose in black pillars. I saw shapes moving in the gloom, twisted, hunched, crawling, laughing. I heard my name, Vale. I clutched the journal tighter. My fingers cracked, black blood seeping. My heart beat once, twice. I took a step forward. The voices screamed in fury. Traitor. I took another step. They held. My vision swam with dark shapes, teeth and eyes, and endless hunger. But I kept walking. The fog swallowed me. The city fell away behind me, screams fading to whispers. My boots crunched over gravel and bone. The road was empty, silent. The voices raged inside me. They clawed at my ribs, tore at my mind. Coward, monster, come back. I didn't answer. My teeth ground until they cracked. Black blood oozed from my gums. I kept walking. The journal burned in my hand. Pages fluttered in wind that wasn't there. Words crawled over parchment, begging, threatening. We're waiting. I stopped, looked up. The world beyond was empty, gray, endless. I fell to my knees. My breath rattled. My vision blurred. I opened the journal one last time. The pages were blank. For the first time in days, the voices were silent. I laughed. It was a broken sound, wet with blood. I closed the book, stood, and kept walking. The road wound through gray fields choked with brambles. Fog clung low, muffling every sound. I walked for hours, days. Time lost meaning. My boots fell apart. My coat stiffened with old blood. My hands were claws, black into the bone. The journal hung at my side, quiet now, watching. I found a hut at dusk, crooked, half collapsed. Smoke drifted from a cracked chimney. I knocked once. Silence. I pushed the door open. Inside sat a man in rags, hair wild, eyes bloodshot. A rusted knife lay on the table beside a guttering candle. He stared at me without fear. "Plague doctor," he rasped. I said nothing. He gestured to the opposite chair. "Sit." I did. My bones creaked. He studied me. "You're running." I clenched my teeth. My lips cracked, leaking black. "From what?" he asked softly. I swallowed. The words were thick, heavy. "From myself." He nodded slowly. The voices. My eyes burned. He reached out, fingers twisted with arthritis. Touched my journal. "It's hungry," he said. I laughed, wet and broken. "So am I." We sat in silence as the candle burned low. At last he spoke. "You can keep running, or you can end it." I shook my head. "There's no ending." He watched the flame gutter. "Not for you, but maybe for them." I didn't sleep. When dawn came, the old man was gone. Only ashes remained in his chair. I took my journal and left. The landscape grew worse. Trees stood leafless, twisted like corpses frozen in agony. Birds lay dead in the dirt, feathers blackened. The road cracked beneath me. Veins of black ichor pulsed through the ruts. The journal whispered now. Quiet. Tempting. "Speak. Feed us. Be whole." I ignored it, but the world didn't. Shapes shambled through the fog. Men and women with hollow eyes, mouths dripping black. They turned as I passed, smiling. They spoke in chorus. "Doctor Vale, come home." I walked faster. My boots slipped in muck that steamed with rot. The sky bled red at the horizon, as if the sun had grown tired of mercy. Once I stopped at a stream. The water was black. My reflection was worse. Hollow eyes, needle teeth, veins writhing beneath skin like serpents. I punched the water. It splashed like blood. The journal laughed. "We're waiting." I kept moving. At night, the dead gathered at the edge of my fire. Silhouettes in the dark. Watching. I didn't sleep. The fog swallowed my screams. I found it at dusk. A chapel squatted at a crossroads, roof sagging, walls slick with old blood. Candles burned in cracked windows. Shapes moved inside. The bell tower had fallen. The bell lay in weeds, half buried. Its surface was black with words carved deep, writhing when I looked too long. "Come." I pushed the door open. Inside, pews lay broken. The altar was piled with corpses. Black blood pooled on the stone floor. Figures knelt in prayer. Their skin was split, mouths open too wide. They turned as one. Doctor Vale. I clutched the journal. My teeth ground until they cracked. Stop, I whispered. They laughed. Voices layered. Infinite. You opened the door. I screamed. The words poured out. Old. Forbidden. Hungry. The corpses on the altar shuddered. Burst. Black ichor sprayed the walls, sizzling where it touched holy symbols. The kneeling congregation convulsed. Their mouths tore wider. More. I fell to my knees. Blood ran from my nose, my mouth. I spoke until my voice broke. When silence fell, I was alone. The corpses were gone. The journal was warm in my hand. I left the chapel before dawn. The world was quiet. Too quiet. The fog had thinned. The road stretched empty before me, gray and cracked. My boots left black footprints. My breath came in ragged gasps. The journal pulsed at my side. Finish it. I stopped at a crossroads. Stones marked graves on all sides. Fresh dirt. Broken markers. I fell to my knees. Enough, I croaked. The journal fell open. Pages fluttered. Words crawled across them in black ink. Speak. I shook my head. Tears burned. More. I slammed it shut. Coward. My heart pounded. My chest burned. My mouth filled with blood. I drew a knife from my belt. Pressed it to my palm. Good. I hesitated. If I do this, I whispered, does it end? Silence. For them. I nodded once. Blood dripped onto the dirt. The graves trembled. I spoke the words. The ground split. Black blood geysered from the cracks. Screams tore the air. The graves vomited corpses. They rose, mouths working, eyes blank. Doctor Vale. I kept speaking. My voice was raw. Each word cost me blood. Flesh. Sanity. The corpses shuddered. Fell. Melted into black sludge that bubbled, hissed, then turned to ash. The screams died. The fog receded. The wind blew cold and clean. I fell forward, hands sinking into cooling ash. My heart stuttered. My breath failed. The journal lay beside me. Open. Empty. I turned it over with shaking fingers. Blank pages. No voices. Silence. I laughed. It sounded like dying. I closed my eyes. For the first time in years, I heard nothing at all. I exhaled and waited for the dark. I woke to pale dawn. Cold. Clean. The ash was dry beneath me. The earth split and scarred where the blood had boiled away, but the fog was gone. My fingers flexed, blackened to the bone, but still mine. I forced myself to sit up, gasping. My breath steamed in the air, ragged but real. Around me, the graves lay quiet. No corpses clawed from the dirt. No mouths whispering. No eyes watching. Silence. True silence. I looked at my hands. Veins black, skin cracked. My blood was thick, sluggish. But it moved at my will. No more voices. The journal lay in the dirt beside me. Open. Blank pages fluttering in the cold wind. I reached for it. My fingers hovered over the cover. It felt lighter now. Almost weightless. I closed it gently. Tied it shut with a strip of torn cloth. I stood, every joint aching. My breath hitched. My heart beat painfully in my chest. But I was alive. I turned slowly, taking in the crossroads. The sky was pale. The wind smelled of frost and wet earth. No rot. No blood. I started walking. Each step was hard. My body screamed. But the voices were gone. I didn't know where I was going. I only knew I would keep moving. Behind me, the wind scattered ash over the fresh-dug graves. The road wound through dead fields. Crops rotted in frozen furrows. Crows sat on fence posts, watching with bright black eyes. They didn't speak. My boots crunched frost. My breath plumed white. My coat hung in tatters, stiff with old blood. The journal swung at my side. Silent. I paused once to drink from a half-frozen stream. The water was clean. No black veins crawled through it. My reflection wavered. Sunken cheeks. Black veins traced like ink across my skin. Eyes hollow, ringed with bruises. But they were mine. No other eyes blinked back. I laughed. It sounded wrong. Thin, but mine. I kept moving. Once, a farmer's house appeared in the distance. Smoke rising from a chimney. Children ran in the yard, bundled against the cold. I stopped on the road, watching. They didn't see me, didn't call my name. I turned away before they could. The wind was cold. My fingers ached. I walked. Night fell. I built no fire. The cold pressed in, biting through ruined cloth. My blood felt thick, reluctant. I opened the journal, pages empty, waiting. I dipped a cracked finger into my own blood. I wrote, line by line, word by word, everything. The boy in the red-marked house, the crypt, the catacombs, the marsh, the well, the teeth, the chapel, the words I spoke that unmade the world, the bargains I made, the price I paid. My blood soaked the paper. The ink ran, but I wrote until my vision blurred, until my hand trembled too badly to hold the quill. I closed the book, tied it shut. The wind howled through the empty fields. I closed my eyes. Forgive me, I whispered. No voices answered. Dawn broke gray and pale. The frost glittered on empty fields. I stood slowly. Every bone ached. My blood felt like tar. My breath rattled. But I stood. The journal was heavy at my side. My testament. My sin. My warning. I faced north. The road wound away into rolling hills, lost in early mist. I took a step. The world didn't end. Another step. The wind sighed in frozen grass. I walked. Past the fields where nothing grew. Past the burned farmsteads. Past the graves marked only by mounds of frost. The sun broke through clouds. Weak. Distant. But real. I didn't smile. Couldn't. But I kept moving. I didn't know where I was going. But it wasn't back. I walked until the sun was overhead. Until my breath steamed in steady rhythm. Until my shadow stretched long on the road before me. And behind me, the wind scattered my footprints. I didn't look back. The end.